Just like everybody, we beat ourselves up, right? I beat myself up and I'm like, why didn't I make the change earlier, right? Why didn't I decide to think earlier? But
Yeah.
and we were just talking about this on the way over here with Jason. That's what life is, though.
Yeah.
Life is progression.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this whole journey is. And this is one thing I've had to learn. We just got to learn to just get better every day.
Well, we're at the One Rental at a Time conference here in Vegas, and I get the honor of interviewing Adrian Hernandez, one of my coaching clients early in the career. I got to watch Adrian go from this young, hungry, he's still young, but very, very young, very green, hungry, like run into every wall possible to make things happen, to now watching his business mature and thrive and grow, and a team, and absolutely just crushing it. So we're going to get to turn the tables. Normally it's you asking me questions.
It is.
I'm drilling you.
You guys, this means a lot to me because Joe D is like, I got a couple of dads. Joe D's, he's one of my, anyways, Joe, we'll get into it, but Joe D has saved my life. So I'm really excited about this.
So I want to talk about the transformation. They're going from the young, hungry, running into walls. Literally, that was you, full speed, maybe even tripping down hallways and landing on your watch. I mean, that may or may not have happened.
The Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. How old's your son, first of all?
He's 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
So this transformation took place well before he came along.
Well before, yeah.
If we were to look back, and this is you reflecting on young Adrian into the current iteration of Adrian, where you transitioned from just being an agent, helping people buy and sell and, hustling for listings. What was if you could put it on a thing or a couple of things that made you go, you know what, I need to get on the investing side of this?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, you guys are going to hear me call Jody Socrates. Jody is my Socrates. So the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, I gave him the name Socrates. So it's sticking, Joe.
Yeah. From the book, right?
From the book. That changed. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to the book. One of the things that really was from real estate to investing was Ty really kind of helped, Ty Leon Guerrero. He helped me see the buy and hold side, and he helped me see the wholesaling side, and then the fix and flip side. And when I first did my first fix and flip, and when I saw the earnings, and not just the earnings, but the fact that the contractor is here, the contractor is making money, the ripple effects that a flip has, right? On top of the fact that we are also helping the seller. I always liked selling real estate. It's not that I didn't like it. I always liked it. But there's passion when it comes behind flipping. There's passion when it comes behind finding a good off-market deal. I didn't have that same passion when I was helping buyers and sellers. If anything, I felt like when I moved to Orange County and I started helping sellers, I felt like I was like kissing. I felt like I was kissing a lot of it.
I remember our conversation when you moved down there,
right?
And you're like, these agents are like, they do anything to get a listing down there.
Yes.
And, nothing against them. You got to do what you got to do to bring deals to the table. But I remember you clearly telling me, like, I don't like this.
No, I didn't. I lost it. It wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable. I literally felt like I was kissing ass.
So if we were talking to somebody that's maybe newer to the One Rental at a Time audience, or just investing in real estate in general, and they have a real estate background, what would you say to them as they're looking at going into the space? Because it is a different mindset.
Right.
And let's be frank. One of the things that I love about being a real estate agent is I've got a store, right? And the shelves are full of inventory.
Right.
And I didn't pay for a single one of those. Right? I've got other people's properties for sale to attract buyers. But when you go into being an investor, now you have a store and it's your money that's in the inventory.
Right.
So the fear, the worry, all the negative side of our mind will chatter up.
Right.
You busted all the way through that. What would you say to somebody that's going into that?
Identify your risk tolerance. One thing I found is I for some reason have a pretty high risk tolerance. Understand your risk tolerance, and really what I would do is go shadow. Like, one thing I did is I went and shadowed an actual flipper. I went and shadowed somebody who was involved in the day-to-day, and I got to see everything that took place. And I asked myself, can I deal with that? Can I really deal with that? Am I going to be able to sleep at night knowing I got $4,000 of payments on this deal. I also have $50,000 you need to put down for the rehab, right? You also have the first initial cost in buying it. Oh, and then if the market doesn't, if you don't get the right buyer, you got holding costs for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Right. And then if the market changes, if you took a loss, can you survive that?
Yeah.
Right. And so I looked at all that. And at first my mind goes, yeah, let's do it. Right. When Jody says I was running into walls, I was literally running into walls. Right. And my whole mindset was like, let's just run as fast as I can. I'm going to make a whole bunch of mistakes. Let's make a whole bunch of mistakes and learn along the way. That's literally like what I had in my mind. Right. It took Jody and Alex and Ty to help bring that energy into focus, right? Because it was kind of all over the place. But what I found is that I work well. I work well under pressure. I work well when my risk is, and maybe that's going to change now that I have a kid, right? And I can see that changing. But I fell in love with it for some weird reason.
Yeah, and one thing I want to echo on as you talk about that risk and the fear. The one thing I really was very impressed with is I watched you had a few deals early on that you took an L, right? And I remember one in particular that you put a video out on it and you were talking about the loss and I'm like, my ego was in it. I was like, Adrian, why are you telling anybody you took this loss?
Right.
But then I thought back about it and I go, no, he's not letting it define him.
Right.
And I think a lot of people look at investing and they got to hit it out of the park on the first one. If you get through and somehow get on the other side of the first one, you don't take a big beating, you are a completely different human on the other side.
100%.
So let's jump forward. We're gonna bounce around a little bit here. I know you do a lot of advertising now.
Yeah.
So you went from buying from other wholesale people to being a wholesale, getting phone calls to ring, mass texting. Now you're doing TV advertising.
Yeah. So now we're all inbound. So we'd have no more cold calls, no more text messaging, multiple six figures a month in marketing. And it's cool. It's cool. It's cool because I'm here talking with you. And I remember when I couldn't pay you and I couldn't write a check. Jody was my coach and I couldn't write a check. And I remember being so embarrassed that I ignored him. I ignored you because I was so embarrassed, but I knew I was going to pay it. I knew it. Kellyanne knew I was going to pay it. I told my wife I was going to pay it. And then I remember paying it. I remember sending you the check and you go, I almost wrote you off. Right. And to see that I was barely able to afford coaching. And yeah, it's cool. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. I think that one trait that I think any successful business person, whether you're a real estate agent, investor, or anything in this space, is that stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go through stress, the market changes. I mean, you identified a bunch of them already. Even like I remember problems on deals where, you got squatters all of a sudden moving into the house mid remodel.
Right.
And you're in California, the squatters have more rights than you do.
Right.
So coming through all of that, but now here you are, all the inbound marketing. How do you keep yourself calm and composed when you've got the overhead level that, and this applies for both somebody who's new, like because early on,
right,
it's just a threshold.
Right.
But what do you do mentally and emotionally to balance that stress, that worry? I've got to write these six-figure checks every month to cover the marketing to get these inbound calls. You were still writing big checks back in the day when you didn't have much money.
Right.
What was the secret there for you?
I want to say it was something you taught me in one of our coaching. It's just how do I put this? Is really I remember when I would go through little tiny, and let's go look back at the 1,000, the 2,000, and 3,000. I remember you always telling me, right, it would just continue going, right, just continue going. And then I also remember you telling me, learn to level. And I'm going to say this wrong, but learn to level. I say it, level the waters.
No,
right?
that's exactly
right.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Level the waters.
And for me, it's leveling the water. So there are times when we don't get, we're supposed to get 4 deals a week. We don't get 4 deals in 1 week. I start hallucinating, right?
The world's ending.
Yeah, because but I remember to calm the waters, and I remember to go to my mind. I remember to just, a lot of it's inner work. Yeah. A lot of it is just literally me in my car 10 minutes before I go home, just with my eyes closed. I'm literally picturing still water. And I'm trying in my mind to get my mind to just be still. And whatever happens outside of that happens. I can't control that, but I can control where my mind is. And I also know it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. I've gotten through the last ones. We're going to get through this, right? It's going to work. But at first, it wasn't easy. At first, I didn't sleep. At first, when we first made the investment, we went all in on TV. I did a first initial $100,000 investment with the Olympics. And I said, screw it, I'm going all in. And we got no deals. No deals from it. And so I'm like, how do I do this? In my mind, but then I remember the training, right? I remember that I need to calm my mind. It's all here. It's all a decision, right? Am I going to over complicate, over hallucinate, and make problems even worse? Because one thing that I found is that I create like 99% of my own problems just by overthinking. And then what happens the next day? We get a $100,000 deal, $150,000 deal, and it pays the bills, right? If I just shut off my mind.
See, everything always works out.
Always works out.
If you keep moving forward.
Right.
A lot of times people will hit that rub, right? Because there's a rub on every deal and every business. It's your ability to keep moving forward through that. And just for the audience, the leveling the waters concept, Native American Indians, they had to live in a community with the tribe, but they also had to go out and hunt, and they had to fight and defend the tribe. And who they were in the community did not work in the battlefield. Who they were on the battlefield absolutely does not work in the community. And so the idea behind leveling your waters is you have to learn how to control those emotions, which you said, and perfectly, 10 minutes on the way home, calming your brain, whatever that exercise is. Because when you're out all day and you're in the battle, right, whatever the battle is, most of it's in our mind, you have to be able to turn that off. When you come home to your family, to your kids, your wife, whomever you have in your life, you've got to be able to switch that off, because otherwise you're going to burn out.
100%.
You'll be on that stress all the time.
100%.
And so I love the fact that you knew the name, and we talked about 10 minutes on the way home.
Yeah.
Just get your brain settled. That is.
And I tell that to all of everyone in our office, because lately it's been really high stress, right? And they'll call me and they're like, I get home and I'm like, okay, we need to calm the mind, right? We really need to calm the mind. And you guys, I was very emotional when I first met Jody. Like, you remember?
Oh, right? You were a fire plug.
Yep. Very, very, very. And so I had to learn to bring that. We just did a podcast with Jason and Brian, and we were talking about like really just bringing it in to where we don't explode, right? Being able to level the mind, and it's all inner work. One thing I found with working with you is like, yeah, the marketing's important, but the work that I do with myself that's much more important. In the book, that the famous Socrates book, right? When he goes and sits on the car to think of the thought,
The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Yeah. Amazing book and amazing movie. If you guys haven't read it, Joe D was the one who introduced me to the movie when I was 21. I was 21 when we first met.
It's that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 21.
Wow.
I'm 34. So what is that? How many years is that? I'm not good at math.
Almost 13.
13 years? Wow. Jesus Christ.
Time flies.
Wow. And I remember in that movie, he goes and he sits on the car, and Socrates says, go sit on the car and don't come back until you have something good to tell me. Something that is worth talking about, right? And I think of that over and over again. So there's times where I go out and I'll just sit in the backyard, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm waiting for a good thought, because all these other thoughts that I have right now are not serving me.
That's outstanding.
And it's just taking one thing after another, right? I couldn't sleep last week, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. And that's normal. And that's for every entrepreneur, every business person. You're going to go through these gyrations as we evolve and develop. And the thing that is always intriguing to me is people will say, well, once I get here, then I'm not going to have this as a problem anymore. And then they get there and they're like, well, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's when I get here. Right. The reality is it's at every step. The higher up you go, the more stress, the more pressure. If you can't manage the stress here, you're not going to manage it here.
No way.
So just get used to it and embrace it. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. Right. Have fun with it. Right. The thing that I love is I love talking back to my mind, right? Because it starts chirping about whatever. I mean, like golf. I love golf. I play golf all the time. One of the most important things is the last thought you have before you swing the club. So and I watch people all the time, like they know what they want to do, and you could see mid-swing, they go, don't hit it in the water. And all of a sudden, their whole body stiffens up, they tighten, they pull, and I go, I know exactly what you just did. I saw it.
Right.
And so to recognize it in ourselves and be able to, have a process, whether it be writing. I love asking questions. I love to take the time on the way home, shift, think through, being in the backyard, think of something good to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Give me something good that I don't know about right now that's going on in your life, because we haven't talked in a couple of months. I mean, we've traded texts here and there, but give me something good like that. I'm like, I'd be blown away with. Yeah.
Something good. We'll have $1 million month.
A what?
We'll have $1 million month next month.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's pretty good.
I'm sure that was.
I like how you were like, you had to kind of think about it.
Last year we had an 800. Last year we had an 800K month. Nice. And this year we'll hit a $1 million month, and then I wouldn't be. We will hit a $2 million month this year.
Absolutely,
it's gonna happen. Yeah,
you got well. The first one you got to get out of the way is $1 million.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And we can see it.
Once you've done it, you're like, okay,
yeah,
like that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. Right.
It's good. And then another thing you don't know is I've taken your advice over these years. I've shut everything off besides I'm just focusing on my business. I'm not focusing on, there's no shiny object anywhere in what I'm doing right now. There's nothing but me and my business, going on appointments and working with the team. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. I think the one thing, as you in general, and this is everybody, as we become successful, other people are attracted to that success, and then they want a part of that success. And so they start presenting you with other ideas. And because you're I want to make big things happen, we're like, oh, well, yeah, I can do that. And I should be doing that. And let me add this to it. So one of the things that I work on now is I'm involved in a number of different companies, and it has to 100% fit my skill set and be in alignment with my life for me to add it. If it's even 5% off, I've got to pass.
Yep. Yeah. I'm right there. I got rid of posting on social media because I noticed that I was taking an hour and a half to film when that hour and a half could be spent with my wife and my newborn, and I'm taking it away to go make videos that I'm not selling a course. I'm not selling. Why am I making these videos? Right. But you know, what's crazy is when I eliminate all the noise and I just focus on my business, we have exponential results. Nothing ever is like, it's like, wow, no one, why didn't you just listen 10 years ago?
$1 million month.
You don't get that by not being in the business, right?
Being all in, all the focused.
I think, but and I don't say this is my problem. I'm working on this. I always have to learn the hard way, Joe D. And that's,
it's not you. It's most people, right? Like I'm always intrigued, and this is a parenting conversation because you got a 2.5-year-old, so you're going through it. You can tell them hot stove, hot stove, hot stove. They touch it once, they will make a 10-foot arc around that hot stove for the next several years. They were like, not going to touch that, right?
Right.
Now, we don't want them to hurt themselves, but sometimes, and I've had to do this with both Tyler and Emma, I have to go, all right, I mean, it won't hurt them too bad, but they're going to get smacked here.
Yeah.
Not by me physically, or just life, right?
Right.
And so for all of us, I think the biggest thing we have to look at is, what am I learning? What are my takeaways? Because we are going to make mistakes. The challenge is some people keep making the same mistake. One after next. It's the same mistake. It's like, no, slow down. Why did you get yourself into this?
Right.
Because if you kept being shiny object guy 10 years from now, that'd be a problem.
Be a big problem.
It'd be like, all right, he's not getting this.
Right.
So,
right. And that's one thing that I'm seeing. Just like everybody, we beat ourselves up, right? I beat myself up, and I'm like, why didn't I make the change earlier, right? Why didn't I decide to think earlier? But we were just talking about this on the way over here with Jason. That's what life is, though.
Yeah,
life is progression.
Yeah,
right. That's what this whole journey is, and this is one thing I've had to learn. We just got to learn to just get better every day, and don't. When you're, have you ever noticed this? When you're still and you're not doing anything, that's when you're depressed. You notice when you're like not moving and you're not challenging yourself and you're not learning and you're not questioning, all of a sudden, like things just you start wondering like, what's wrong with me? It's because we're not growing, right? And so one thing I found is like, to your point, is always questioning myself, always not questioning, but in the sense of, how am I getting better? How can I get better? Is this the man that I need to be right now? Is this the man that I'm showing up that I need to be right now? Who do I need to show up and be? Because to your point, this isn't a have game. This is a be game.
Yeah.
Right. It's all working on our being. And as our being grows, I've noticed, things grow around us too. So,
well, so one of the things that ties into that is you've got to know yourself, and you've got to learn yourself.
Right.
Right? You got to learn what your triggers are, what your distractions are, what your temptations are, what your frustrations are. And then you've got to put things in place to keep you moving in the direction you want. One of the things that that I talk about with guys that are my age, I study guys that are 20 to 25 years older than I am. And the reason why is I want to know, what are they doing that, A, if their body's falling apart, where did they go off track? Or the other guys that I look at, like guys that are in their late 70s, early 80s, and they're in great shape. And I'm like, okay, what's that guy doing? What is he doing over there to always be solid?
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, I got to make sure I add that into my routine. So while we're going through that, it's looking around. And that's, I think, the beauty of long-term relationships is we get to keep filling each other's cup.
Right.
Because I get excited. I mean, I think I saw something where you put an ad out, like you're paying inbound salespeople, like, was it like $75,000 a year they have an opportunity to? I'm literally like, look at this guy go.
Yeah, our guys are making, our last guy made $100,000 a month in 1 month.
In 1 month.
Yeah. Let's
month. Go.
I made him $100,000, or I wrote him a $100,000 check.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
This, I just have to say, guys, is, find a mentor, listen to them. Joe D has been grateful enough to share his wisdom with me. If you guys haven't, make sure you're following Joe D and find somebody that can help you navigate through this, because we can't figure it out on your own.
And I would say that anybody that you're getting coaching or guidance or mentorship from, number one, be authentic. The one thing that I know that I was able to help you with is you always told me the reality of what was going on, not the I want to look good to my coach story.
Right.
Because I can't do anything with that.
Nope.
Right. I think you're doing good, but I found out you're off track. And the other thing is ask questions. That's one of the things that I think you were absolutely one of the best at. You would show up and be like, okay, I need to know about this. So anyway, from one rental at a time, what a great weekend we're having here. Adrian, appreciate you.
Jody,
And
appreciate you.
for those tuning in, thank you. Take care.
Take care.